Hello everyone, welcome back to Stingray's Crazy Corner. Today is day 15 of our wellness and conservation segment. And today what I'd like to talk with you about is the power of words. And by the power of words, what I mean is some of us can go around all day long saying that we're open-minded. And some of us are a little bit more of a disposition where we might not be as open-minded as we think we are. And I'll explain that. But first, I would like to give a major thank you to all of you who have been contributing to and or sharing the content that I provide, which is showcasing wellness and conservation through basically taking care of our own health as we address the health of others. And by that, what I mean is if you're just now seeing this segment, I often talk about nature and wildlife. That's my primary reason for making any of these videos. I happen to enjoy music, so you'll sometimes see me in concert t-shirts. It might not be the same kind of music that you've listened to in the past, and at the same time, that's okay. Music, just like so many things, are universal languages. Love is a universal language, for an example. If we love something, then we'll care for it and tend to it and nurture it and all that. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the power of words. I'm going to be talking about something that some of us are going to find controversial depending on what our upbringing was. And some of us might remain steadfast in our determination to, I don't know what to call it except for to pass judgment on something. And that's something that sometimes we do without knowing that we're doing it. So I'm going to recite some words to you that are going to sound like a mantra or meditative phrase or a lullaby or a prayer. It depends on what you want to call it. But I'm going to recite the words and I'm going to ask that you hold your attention all the way through the entire segment and at least listen to what I have to say after I say these words so that you can also determine whether your mind is open or whether you're kind of at an impasse, which is where I know I was some time ago. Now, to get into this, the easiest way to demonstrate what I'm talking about is to show you that words can be something that can immediately either pique our interest or cause us to shut down our thinking process. So without any further delay, let's start by reciting something that I think many of us have heard before. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against others. And lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from evil. The way that those words go are something that some people, as soon as they hear them, might disengage for whatever reason. I think that disengagement is partly programming based. As soon as we hear these words, depending on our upbringing, I, for an example, was brought up in a Catholic school from kindergarten through 8th grade. And so I heard these words all the time, and I formed a unique association with them because of a lot of other aspects of my past during that time frame. So what I want to do is kind of dissect all of those words, and I don't mean like to denounce it or dispute it. I'd like to dissect it just a little bit so that we can talk about this topic. Our Father who art in heaven. Now imagine that if you yourself are a non-believer or if you're a believer, just imagine, for whatever reason, imagine that this is about your actual father or your mother or anyone who you viewed as a parental or some kind of influencer in your life, a parental substitute or influencer in your life. Someone who you regarded with high esteem, someone who helped show you how to really properly live. This is something that you would be saying about them. if they had passed on to whatever the next dimension might be. Whatever your beliefs are, I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying, let's dissect the words. Our Father who art in heaven. Now, my parents are alive, and so I'm going to be using a different frame of reference to think about when I think about someone who's passed on. But I'm going to just say the words as I said them. If I was appreciative of this person who had passed on and talking about them, I'd be saying with reverence, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. In other words, whenever I say your name, I don't want to say it with any kind of disregard. I wouldn't want to, because that would be careless, that would be tarnishing that which I'm telling you. I'm coming at this from a perspective of something that I admire, someone that I admire. So, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, if this person that I've regarded as someone who is important had showed me a way to live peacefully, well, then I would want their kingdom, their establishment to come to fruition the same way that it would in a heavenly aspect. I would want that to take shape on earth as well. So give us this, basically, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. So when we get to these next words, what we're saying is, please let it be a bountiful day when I can receive something that helps to fill whatever I need nourishment-wise to get through the day. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others who trespass against us. Now, I don't know about you guys. I have a license to operate a motor vehicle, and during all of my years of driving, I've had many encounters with other drivers. Some of them have been near misses. I've had a couple of accidents. These were things that happened during my learning process. But even so, there will always be those encounters that you're going to have while you're operating your vehicles out there in the world. So let me ask you this. As someone moves from one lane to another and maybe almost has a collision with you, do you get agitated and really irate? Or do you just forgive them their trespasses the same way that you would like it if you absentmindedly, with or without the blinker, I almost drove into that car there, but I didn't. Hopefully that person is not so agitated that they're angry at me and honking, and in a way that we can feel the energy that we exude, or even barely acknowledge one another with as these incidences occur. So forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from evil. So if I were thinking in a way of someone who had taught me formerly and taught me to live in an ethical way that I admired for whatever reason, the whole purpose is, if I was thinking about someone with reverence, and if I believed in any energy conveyance from one plane to another, I might ask that this energy give me this day my daily bread, forgive me my trespasses as I forgive others, and lead, and however random it seems, lead me not into temptation, and deliver me from evil. That, in other words, that thought process is just an energy. It's an energy that I'm putting out there. Whether or not you are specifically religious or not, these are all words that are not mean. They don't have ill intent towards anyone else. And I believe that many foundations of peace say the same exact thing. So it doesn't matter which segment you're coming from if you think about the underlying study of what it is that these teachings of peace are trying to harmonize us with. Now, the same can't be said as far as how you or I might receive this message if we're just hearing it over a format such as this, which I'm in a new crazy corner. I'm kind of experimenting with the layout of a lot of different seating areas that I have available to me, so that while I'm operating and delivering these messages, which again are really targeted towards wellness and conservation, which starts with self-care, and I'm sharing these insights with you in a way that maybe you haven't had them shared before. I don't know what your religious upbringing is or what you adhere to, or if you have any specific profound epiphany that you want to follow up with to tell me, hey, your words that you shared were, and they're not my words. I'm just basically reciting a prayer that was in a book that basically was the one that I grew up with. You guys grew up with your own books, with your own prayers, with your own nursery rhymes, and I'm not saying they're all the same. What I'm saying is there are certain things that we can do to bring our, what is the word I'm looking for? To bring our agitation down. Do you have anxiety? Have you suffered from anxiety in the past? In a lot of cases, it's because we're not thinking with reverence of those people who have left us in one way or another. And like I said at the beginning of these words that I was talking about, I was going to say at the end why I was saying these words. But imagine any situation ever in your entire life, and now apply to it the fact that you were created. And you were created by a father and a mother. There's no way around it. If you're listening to this, unless we've evolved to the point where other life forms are hearing some of what I'm saying, and maybe we're raised in a different way, the fact is your existence was brought about because of a creator. If you don't have any regard to that creator, it might be an inner self-reflection that you're struggling with. And this tumultuous relationship where we're struggling with our internal feelings about ourselves is oftentimes how we pursue the judgment of others. As an example, let's say in a different situation, I was not in a calm, peaceful state of mind. Let's say that I was agitated and that I had no regard whether or not that person that I almost collided with was my father or not, alive or not. In other words, let's say I didn't even look at that person. I only had contempt because they were in the same lane that I was just about to get into, but they switched lanes without their blinkers, so I didn't see them coming, and I almost sideswiped them. If I wasn't in a state where I absolutely believed in peace or aspiring for peacefully resolving situation, I might have an immediate violent response. And then the immediate violent response is often tempered to degrees in terms of what we do, when we decide to do it, if we think we'll get away with it. It goes on and on. But these governances of how we treat one another come from within. And as I was saying those words, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, what I'm saying is you have reverence. You start out with reverence for something, some energy, some creator. Imagine you were created by your parents and you start out with those thought processes, whether you're religious or not. If you were humble and in your humility was almost the form of a genuflection towards being created and having the opportunity to work with, guess what? Someone else who was created by not necessarily your father, but a cumulative energy that somehow led us to talk with each other. That's the type of reverence that when we have it, when it's really ingrained in you, and I don't mean branded like in a bad way, what I mean is when it's in your essence to be peaceful, you're probably going to see something if it's struggling and want to free it or to help it somehow. These are the kind of thoughts that come from peaceful texts. And I would go so far as even to say from nursery rhymes, from children's movies. I don't know if you've ever had an instance where you've watched shows with someone and run into a situation where the show was so basic and just so simple and fun that the person you were watching the show with got upset. Imagine watching something in my era, in my country. I grew up with something called Sesame Street, and it had Muppets on it. And the Muppets all did their own things, you know. Some Muppets counted, some Muppets were angry, grouchy, some Muppets were, you know, tall and they couldn't fly even though they were birds. There were so many different things, and that's like us. We're all so unique, but we come in such a similar packaging that in a lot of cases we don't understand how unique all of us are, including things that are packaged differently, like animals. And when we have a profound level of commitment to wellness and conservation, we start seeing things that are hard to overlook anymore, like plastic bottles in our wild spaces. It's why I continue to pick up trash on the trails that I'm on and show it. It's not that I'm getting, well, I wasn't until you started contributing and helping me to achieve this cause. It's not like I was getting paid full time to pick up the trash on the trails, but I was still doing it nonetheless, no matter where I was at. If I had the right tools, if I was able to pick things up, if I wasn't afraid to get coronavirus from all the things that I was picking up on the ground, I would pick those things up. And those are things that I think we can all do when we have a little bit less fear. But first and foremost, how do we help each other to not get to that dirty state to begin with? How do we help each other to purchase less of those things that are bringing all of these negative taxes into our system? And I say taxes because someone has to pay for them in some way or another. And it's taxing to go up and pick up after other people. It's less work if we create less mess to begin with. And so if we have the foresight to understand that we can head off some of these troubles, well, deliver us from evil, you know? And I don't know how else to say it except for there are certain things that we accept in ourselves, even certain afflictions or addictions require a certain level of presence of awareness that almost falls into a hierarchical structure. And as we look at all life, including the animals around us, if we see them as so much below us in the hierarchy, we might not care for them all that much. But if we truly see one another, which I hope that we're doing right now, especially with this segment being about the power of words. I'm not trying to put any kind of influence in your ear or on your shoulder. You know, I don't know which one of them is good or bad. The angels that hang out with you on your shoulder. But I do know that there is one voice that is much more quiet, and it's exceedingly peaceful and confident about its results. Because anytime you follow that intuition, almost you would call it your conscience, anytime you follow it, it usually is a break from the norm when confronted with some of the typical things that we've done for a lifetime based on what we were taught by our fathers. So the power of words is really interesting because when you're hearing me, as you're hearing me say these things, you might hear me saying something that sounds very religious or very anti-religious. It depends on your own mindset. But from my mindset, from my stance, from where I sit, from my perspective, even despite all of the things that I've gone through recently and in the past and throughout time, I still come to one conclusion. If I care for someone and nurture them, then they're going to eventually do the same thing for someone else. Not necessarily for me. They might not really have any kind of regard for me because of the way that I talk, maybe the way that I dress, maybe even the way that I look. But again, those are reflections that someone is seeing about themselves to begin with. So I can't really make any decisions based on other people's decisions, except for if I see a lot of plastic on the trails, I'm going to try to purchase less of it, because for one, I know I won't be contributing to that same tax, that same revenue stream. It's going to basically fund the same exact continuation of business as usual. Instead, I'm going to try to fund a different way and find a different way to incorporate these changes that we all know are probably necessary in order to give us this day our daily bread. So in order for that to happen, my mission is to reach 1,000 subscribers on this platform. Now, my words going to one person are not as impactful as will be required to reach that level of viewership. The way that I entertain people may not be commensurate with getting 1,000 subscribers to subscribe to my content right now as it stands. But that's only depending on the pool that you're looking at. We have a global ecosphere right now, and unless the channel is being censored across the countries, I know I have at least 1,000 people who agree with what I'm saying. And so all I'm asking for is, if nothing else, if you can share this video, if it for whatever reason resonated with you one way or the other, it would do me the honor of allowing me to at least communicate with those people who are in my tribe. Our vibe attracts our tribe. The law of attraction says it. Everything in there is true. Everything that we can believe is true. So if we have the choice to refute or to believe, to me the choice is pretty simple. If I believe that there is any type of creator, then there is a hierarchy, and I defer to that. And that means that you're a part of that hierarchy, and whatever experience that I've been bestowed with when I'm blessed with your presence in any format is part of that deliverance of what I needed to hear to become the best version that I could be for you. And the reason I did that is because I love seeing you smile as well. So I'd love you to be the best version of who you can be for whoever, because the more we smile at one another, the more we're able to go, you know what? I shouldn't have just thrown that plastic bottle onto the trail. Shouldn't have had my star fixed and thrown it onto the trail. I shouldn't have bought this other device that makes new pods, generates new pods for these one-time fixes of whatever convenience it is that are currently destroying our environment and our ecosystems and pretty much all of our infrastructures as we know them today. So I hope that makes sense. Happy day 15. It's pretty amazing how fast time goes by. It's very interesting, the things that all fall into place at the same time. It's very interesting to me how closely interwoven we are. And it's so interesting to me that I feel like you guys already know the punchline, and maybe I'm just eagerly anticipating 1,000 subscribers that I may never get. But I have this feeling that whether or not there were 1,000 subscribers or one, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm walking a path where I'm happy, it doesn't matter what anyone else is going to bring into my life. I'm going to try to help resolve whatever broken elements they're bringing in, the same way that I would hope that someone would help me if I was bringing something broken to them. That's what we're here for. It's to help one another. So if nothing else, if you didn't get anything else from this, hey, help one another out whenever you can. Thanks for listening to these words. I guarantee I didn't offend you. I might have made you think in a way that you haven't thought before. But again, it's not something that's difficult to hear. Sticks and stones can break our bones, but words will never hurt us. The only difference is, you got to think, when you're consuming anything, whether it be something you're hearing, seeing, smelling, eating, you have to think, is it making your day better or is it bringing you down? So You guys, thank you for lifting me up and for helping me to complete these journeys that I've been struggling through at times. I appreciate it. Have a great week. That's about it. Peace.